Hey everyone, Chelsea Williams here. We are going over the income statement or the P&L. Same thing. So the P&L or the income statement is and should be one of your favorite statements to look at. So your income statement shows you how much money you made and how much money you spent in any given time. So the one we're using for today's example is for an entire calendar year, but this report could come to you in a month-over-month comparison, which we find a lot more helpful because then it accounts for seasonality, allows you to see the bigger picture. You can recognize trends. The very, very good way to look at your P&L information. But for the sake of today's video, this one is just a snapshot for a point in time and the total. So you'll notice that the money in is very detailed because everyone has groups or buckets they can categorize their revenue in. And it is incredibly helpful to know which buckets are contributing to your total revenue right here. So, when you're looking at your revenue, you need to be asking yourself questions to understand the numbers. As you're looking at the numbers, if something sticks out to you, if something looks off, go investigate, go ask. Like, your role here is to start understanding your numbers, the patterns, the ratios, the percentages. And that may sound overwhelming, but here's the thing. You just have to get into the habit of looking at these reports and getting comfortable with the flow of them. But the goal here is to understand the patterns in your money and understand where most of your money is coming from. And I love the 3 layers deep rule. So the 3 layers deep rule says, if something looks off to you, even if it's great, if you did a marketing campaign and it completely paid off, ask yourself why. Why did it do so well? And not just, oh, it did so well because we worked as a team and it was great. Yay, to next time. No. Why did it do so well? Because we actually strategized this campaign on purpose to hit a specific target market. Well, okay, so we targeted it. So now let's ask ourselves another layer of, okay, why also did it work so well? So we go then another layer deep and go into, well, we really learned the psychology because we collected this data. And okay, so there is a source of value, right? So you go 3 layers deep, right? Really dig into what stands out to you on this income statement so that you understand it. It is your job as the CFO of your business and life to understand your financials. So then we go down to expenses. This is the money out. Now, let me just start by pointing out that the expenses listed on your income statement does not represent necessarily the cash that went out of your business in that time frame. The items that are not going to show up here that did leave your bank are things that are tracked over on the balance sheet. So things like principal payments to loans, any liabilities going out, owner draw, so for pass-throughs or S-corp distributions, those are not an expense. That is a draw, and it is kept on the balance sheet, but it is still cash out. And so this is an area of great confusion for a lot of people because they're like, oh, my net income says 96,000, but I only have 70,000 sitting in the bank. Why is that? It's because of what happened on your balance sheet that is not reflected here because it is not a business expense. So being that it is not an actual expense on the income statement, what that means is that this bottom number here, net income or loss before tax, this is essentially what you are going to be taxed on or what is going to contribute to your personal return as a pass-through. So this is also a very important number to watch, and one that we watch every month to make sure that quarterly estimated tax deposits are accurate and timely, and that you're prepared, and this is how you avoid that big tax bill at the end of the year. So now that we've got past that, you'll see that in this lovely income statement, we have very helpful grouping in your expenses so that you can really piece out what's going on with your numbers. For example, marketing is the first group. this is an area that we spend a lot of time on. What you want to look at here is how much did I spend with each vendor and how many leads did I get that converted. Ultimately, is there an ROI here? Is there a return on investment? And now not everybody is keeping up with their back-end marketing metrics. So there is this other side of this information is extremely useful, but if you're not monitoring your marketing metrics, you're not going to get the full value of what this group is really showing you. So then we have the office expense group. This is typically what we can look at and say, okay, if you were to bring in no overhead, didn't have payroll, like this is about your overhead. This is your break-even point, right? Minus the payroll and the marketing and things like that. But that's kind of what we try to set this group up to be. So the key here is going to be expense control, making sure that you are not spending money unless it needs to be spent. You have some decision-making process that dictates when money is spent on something versus when it's not. Software is a really good example. You know, if you don't have a decision kind of flow chart where you hold yourself accountable to making sure that you're making wise decisions, you know, that's something to think about. So a lot of things that we can typically find in office expenses to kind of cut back on, simple things, but everything counts, right? And then the payroll. So in the payroll expenses, you know, you really want to ask yourself questions. These numbers translate to your operations. So you want to be asking yourself questions like what percentage of payroll, what percentage was payroll of revenue this time last year? Because if your payroll percentage has gone way up, well, then that means that the efficiency is not there. That's what that points towards, right? So we have a lot of really good conversation around efficiency of software, leveraging software and technology, and also delegation. You know, as you grow and scale, all of the positions in your business are going to grow and scale as well. When you were really, really small, you had one person that was like, do all the things, just do all the things that you are capable of doing so that it just takes it off of my plate, right? But as you begin to grow and scale, it's very important to keep an eye on your team's structure in like an organizational chart where you list the positions, because what's going to happen is those positions are going to become more defined. And now you have leverage in your team and the positions to be able to design a position to be very focused and good at what they're doing so that they can support and nurture the workflow of the rest of your team. So, you know, look through this and ask yourself questions about, are you being efficient? Is it time to redelegate some tasks and outsource something? You know, this is a group worth spending some time on. So that is the income statement. Like I said, it should be just about your favorite report, except for the budget variance. That's my personal favorite report. But, you know, the point of this is for you to get used to these numbers, learn and understand your numbers, and good leaders ask great questions. So ask questions behind the numbers because these numbers represent your internal operations.